You see her, Sarah? Sarah?
I don't think so.
Okay, we can't see you, but we can hear you, so.
Wait to the Hi, kids.
We're gonna go with that.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Give a shout out to our children watching.
Let's do this. Are our kids watching?
We could all
Or
give a shout
yours?
out to possibly Jesse's children.
Oh, they're tuning in.
Letter of the days. Seriously, now we're tuning into the Sunset News. Welcome to our.
Okay, I'll public hearing to order at 7 p.m. I will make a motion that the council of the town of Colhurst hereby go into a public hearing for the purpose of considering proposed bylaw number 434-22 land use bylaw amendments and proposed bylaw number 435-22 land use bylaw amendment. The purpose of the hearing is to allow the public input into the proposed, do I need to read that part, or is that in the script?
Just do the motion first.
Okay, that's my motion, okay, I don't need to do that part, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, I've got my script, I'm good to go. All right, so first of all, I would just like to introduce the council that is present today. So we have Deputy Mayor Caldwell, Councillor Potry, Councillor Florence, and Councillor Ackermans, and then myself, Mayor Montina. And in terms of staff, we have CAL RK Howda. We've got Diane Horvath, who is from our planner with the Old Man River Regional Services Commission. And our executive assistant, Les, who's great. And we've got our development officer, Sarah Mitchell, and she's on Zoom tonight as well. So the purpose of this public hearing is to ensure that there is an orderly process for council to receive information on the proposed bylaws from anyone who wishes to be heard. So council asks that the presentations tonight be limited and focused only on land use planning matters as they relate to the bylaw and the area structure plan. We will go through the following process. So after my comments, the time will be turned over to administration for an overview of the bylaw to be considered during this public hearing. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to address council, and council may question the applicant if they feel they need clarification or additional information. Finally, members of the public who wish to address council will be given an opportunity to speak. When you do this, please state your name and where you are from for the minutes. And also please speak as clearly as possible, and all statements should be directed at me, and I will redirect you as necessary. Council and not the public gallery may question the presenters or staff if they feel the need for clarification. Please understand that this meeting is to hear information regarding the bylaw and is not a forum for public debate. Speaking out of turn will not be tolerated. It is important for that all present be respectful of each speaker, whether you agree or not, and that everyone is afforded the same level of respect. If you are disruptive to the meeting, you may be asked to leave. So I'll turn it over now for the administrative overview.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as indicated there on the screen, you'll see the purpose of the hearing is to allow public input into proposed bylaw 434-22, which is a bylaw to amend land use bylaw number 354-12 by redesignating a portion of the southeast quarter of 21-922 west of the 4th Meridian, legal subdivision 1 from transitional TR land use district to Parks and Recreation PR land use district, as well as adding utilities as a permitted use to Schedule 2 Parks and Recreation land use district section 2.1. And to allow public input into proposed bylaw number 435-22, being a bylaw to amend land use bylaw number 354-12 by amending Schedule 5, use specific standards, section 11, cannabis retail store, to delete section 11D, which requires a retail cannabis store be set back 100 meters or 328 feet from the boundary of a parcel of land zoned public institutional PI. It's being held under the authority of the Municipal Government Act, and the mayor's indicated kind of the rules and procedures for the hearing. As far as the compliance report for the first bylaw, 434-22, we'll sort of deal with them one at a time. So bylaw 434-22 was given first reading on May 10th of 2022. Notice of the public hearing was mailed to every residence within the town of Colhurst. In addition, the notice is posted in the June Town News, posted on the town's website, posted on the town's social media sites, posted on the electronic message center located at the town administration office, and posted on a bulletin board at the town administration office. Administration was done in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and the Town of Colhurst land use bylaw. We did receive one written submission with no concerns for the proposed amendments to the land use bylaw, and I will read that to you. So basically, thank you for the referral. Lethbridge County has reviewed the proposed amendment and has no concerns. signed by the Supervisor of Planning and Development, Billy Jensen of Lethbridge County. And from there, I will turn it over to our town planner.
Great, thank you very much. I mean, I don't think I have a whole lot more to add unless there's any questions. Council has with regards to this. Again, I think during first reading, we did talk about how this does fit in with our stormwater management plan, and it's sort of a housekeeping item. And from what I understand, other than, I don't know if anyone's here from the public to speak to this particular item, but I'd be happy to, again, answer any questions that perhaps come out of the public gallery.
Anyone on this one? All right. All right.
I do have a question, if I may, please. There was a letter that had been submitted some time back. Would that be a part of this?
I would suggest if it was submitted outside of the public hearing process, that it would, again, not be relevant to this particular process we're in.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so we're done with that one. And we just carry on? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So moving on to the next one, just a compliance report for bylaw 435-22. It was given first reading on May 17th of 2022. And again, notice of the hearing was mailed to every residence within the town of Coalhurst, as well as posted in the June News, posted on the town's website, posted on the town's social media sites, posted on the electronic message center located at the town administration office, and posted on the bulletin board at the town administration office. Again, the advertising was done in accordance with the Municipal Government Act and the Town of Coalhurst Land Use Bylaw. And again, there we did receive one submission in regards to this one as well. And it was also from the I'm not sure that's the same one. So again, it says, thank you for the referral. Lethbridge County has reviewed the proposed amendment and has no concerns. And again, that's from Billy Jensen, the Supervisor of Planning and Development. Again, I will turn it over to our town planner.
Great, thank you very much. The only, I guess, new information I wanted council to be aware of is there's some mapping that I did after when we contemplated first reading. It was difficult to understand visually what our current bylaw indicated. So there should be some maps in your package, which include, I'm not sure if we can bring those up or not, for the galleries so that you can see it.
We can make a copy or two of that.
I can probably do mine and I'll just pass them around about that. So our first one is the pink one, which is what our current is. So that includes the green, the purple, and blue. Green, purple, and green and purple are the public institutional and our parks and recreation. So that's a good representation of what we currently would have as lands that would not be available. So that we've got first pass this out to the audience in a second. The second one is if we were to remove any public institutional. So you can see that the purple is now turned to blue. So those are our two school sites because currently our schools are zoned public and institutional. So, but we have the other one where if it's a school site or anything that has a school ground on it, it would still be part of that. So you can see there's what the new one would look like. The third one is the difference between the two. So anything where the pink is kind of peeking out behind the yellow. So we have a little bit here at the entrance to Coalhurst. There's a little bit up by Miners Park, and there's a little bit sort of at the the north east end of the community as well, kind of around the Lafarge property. Okay. Just pass these out so people can have a quick peek. So if you want to speak to those. So again, I guess the thing for council to consider is sort of the impact of what removing that public institutional requirement would do to the ability for people to develop cannabis retail stores somewhere else in our community. So again, it's not a whole lot different, but it does open up sort of the retail area that we have at the entrance to the community here in our commercial area. that perhaps is a little bit less restrictive than previous. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have on that. Again, haven't fielded any questions from any member of the public with regards to this.
Any question from council? Councilor Ackerman.
Thank you. I guess my question is just with regards to, if we were to remove this clause in there, which creates a little bit more open area, I'm assuming the cannabis retail establishment would still be subject to zoning regulations and everything like that. Is that right?
Correct. It would be subject to the fact that it would have to be a listed use of the district, and then it would still be required to go through the development permitting process. And we do have retail cannabis as discretionary uses. They're not a permitted use. So it's not an automatic permit. There's still a requirement for notification for the next step.
And then I guess just to follow up, looking at the map, is the only area, from my understanding, where that might be is right near the entrance to town? Or is there other areas that would be zoned where there would be a need for that?
There might be a little tiny bit, so I'm trying to look here what that would be. There may be a little bit, again, currently we have the area that is outside of our business industrial along the tracks is already where, as you can see, isn't covered currently. So there would still be opportunities there as well. So, but again, this doesn't open up a lot more than sort of just right here to the entranceway. There would be perhaps, again, if you look at the, depending on what happens with the residual lands around the stormwater pond, we're just rezoning. Again, that's still transitional, so they wouldn't be allowed there, but there may be a potential where we're taking out a bit of that peak bubble at the very top corner of the town lands, that if at some point that was to become a retail node, something like that could occur there. So just kind of balancing that off. But currently there isn't a whole lot of commercial opportunities within the community, so it does sort of limit, it's already limited as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for council? Councilor Kotri.
Yes, Diane Horvath, in the image that was provided, the buffer, where it's zoomed in on the, the buffer seems to be still touching the property line. I guess how is that enforced? Is that deemed acceptable to?
So what would happen with that one, and I didn't get that one, I'll hand this one over. So again, it's kind of looking at the grocery store / pub area, which is next to this, because it would be the closest to where we would have removed the public, because when we take out the town office, that's the thing that was causing the buffer to be there. I did zoom in just to sort of get a good idea, and again, it's not as accurate as if we were getting an application into it. But again, there is the ability within our land use bylaw to also waive that 100 meters. So, and again, it depends on the amount of the waiver that would happen and whether or not there would be any requirements or blowback from the residents that they didn't support that. So again, there's that whole other development process that would go on. I would recommend that if it was still taking out half of the commercial, because we're going all the way to the gas station across the way, that, you know, even it may not be beneficial to remove that. By removing it, it now opens up the other commercial building we have at some time in the future for that type of development.
Any further questions from council? If none, is the applicant here? Okay.
That would be me.
Okay, you can come on up if you'd like to take a seat.
Sure.
And you're welcome to, is it just usually a presentation of?
Whatever they would like to add to the.
I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jerry Kruger. I own Urban Leaf Inc. out of High Prairie, Alberta. It's a very small family-run business. We're very legal bound, as most people know, with cannabis laws. Like in pertaining to your bylaws with the 100-meter rules and stuff. There is so many restrictions already put on us from the federal and provincial governments. And like, I know we've heard back from a few people about concerns about school zones, stuff like that. Federal laws already state that we're 200 meters or more away from these zones already to protect child access, of course. Children aren't allowed even in the stores, for one thing. Yes, there's 1,000 rules that have been put in place already. So when I first initially came to the town of Cohurst, it wasn't just to pick it out of a hat. My brother and sister have actually just acquired property here and bought a house in town. My mom and dad are actually looking to buy a house here, and she will be running the store for me. She is 36 years of working in the courthouse systems in High Prairie, Alberta. We're very, like I said, very small family-based operation, very goal-oriented, keeping public safety as number one, of course. We will be employing between 6 to 9 people from the community, of course. We look to hire locally always. I don't really know what else to add, to be honest with you. I'm just, like I said, I'm very small town. I'm a carpenter by trade. I ran my own businesses since I was 20 years old. Everywhere from oil field businesses to carpentry businesses. We opened in 2018 in High Prairie, Alberta. We came up with a lot of opposition when we first attempted to open as well because of the whole cannabis thing, right? A lot of people are a little bit hesitant to let them into their communities. They allowed us to open with the support of the RCMP in High Prairie because the statistics showed that it does drop crime rates, it does get rid of drug houses, and it does stop child access to cannabis. They were a little bit hesitant. They put us on a trial basis. We passed with flying colors. We've been open for almost over 3 years now. 0 infractions from AGLC, 0, we haven't never been fined. We've never been reprimanded. We have 100% clean stature with them. And I do have contacts and stuff that you can call to double check on that kind of stuff. We've seen it in other communities where corporate guys come in, the rules aren't really followed. It's just another business. We don't follow that same pattern. We are very, very community orientated. We do a lot for our community in High Prairie. We give out a lot. We were not allowed to with the cannabis store, of course. We're not allowed to do any kind of sponsoring or whatnot. So we personally donate money to a lot of school programs and stuff for DARE programs, etc. We're just trying to fill a need. You know, there is a lot of cannabis users in our country, as we all know. It's a lot different than what it was 4 years ago when it first rolled out. There was a lot of hesitation from communities because of the devil's lettuce, of course, as we all know what it's called. We have evolved quite rapidly in this industry and are hoping to get our foot in the door here and hopefully open another store here.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council?
Sorry, if I could, so you said Urban Leaf?
Yep.
What's the name?
Yep, URBANLEAF.
Any further questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we'll move to the public gallery. If you would like to chat with us about it, you're welcome to.
About the retail,
About what, sorry?
about the retail, the cannabis store?
Yes, yeah, you're welcome to provide any input in regards to the, about the actual land use bylaw, about the proposed changes that we've.
And where do you plan to put this store, the cannabis store? Is that the new area or
I'll go to Diana and she can answer that.
do you want to
Yeah.
fix it or not?
It doesn't matter that, we can probably hear you okay. I guess just for the record, just what is your name first?
Okay, my name is Fred. I'm living in the 7th Street.
Okay, super.
Wherever you're
Great.
comfortable.
Yeah,
That's great, thank you.
my name is Reg. I live in the 7th Street. I got the document about the new transition from something to the park, so I'd like to know a little bit. And but I'm concerned about cannabis store. I just jumped in the boat. I'm totally lost, but in my experience, I don't think it's good for the community. I think it's I came here in 2008, and it was a small community, and it was family, it was safer. Suddenly it grew, and I don't think is a good trend. I think if you're looking for the money, might be a good idea, but for the safety, I don't think is a good way. I I lost friends when I was teenager with cannabis. For me, cannabis is a gateway for heavy drugs, and there's so much opportunity we can put in the community. Fitness, anything for health, for safety, and just put more another cannabis store with so many we have in Lethbridge. So what's the point? What's the big deal, right? So personally, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's going to be a bonus for a small community. I hope I said everything.
Thank you.
Any question?
Diane, is there anything that you'd like to clarify?
Madam Mayor, just so you're aware, what we're doing is we already allow within the town of Colehurst cannabis retail as a use.
Right.
So this is not new. And so it's been allowed as a use in our land use bylaw since 2018, when it became legalized in Canada. The difference of what we're talking about now is a minor change to the setback requirements. Because we had previously, because we did it by zoning, so which included things that were public and institutional uses. So the town office, the community center, the schools, and there is a chunk of land where the town shops are that is also public and institutional. Now, the provincial government also has a requirement for a 100-meter setback from any municipal reserve parcels, school reserve parcels, hospitals, medical facilities. So that doesn't change. We're not proposing to override that. What we're looking to say is, do we still need this double level of protection between what we already have as protection as schools? And so really what I need to minimize what we're doing, it's the shops up by Miners Park that would no longer have a buffer around it. It would be the town office that wouldn't have a buffer around it anymore. It would be the fire hall that wouldn't have a buffer around it anymore. And it would be that piece where the town shops are kind of out the far east end of town. So those are the ones that are no longer being buffered. I guess.
When you say
That's what
buffer,
this
is like a protection?
Yeah, protection, so you have to stay back so far from things. So as well, we're not an absolute application for a location yet. So there's another process that if the applicant is successful in removing this 100-meter buffer, that would then again open the door for him to be able to look for retail space that would fit our bylaws. As well, then it would apply for that. Any adjacent landowners would be notified of that prior to. So there's some more work that has to be done before there would be an actual store started. So again, maybe that's the difference between sort of this is the big kind of policy statements that council's looking at. And then when an application would be coming in, then our municipal subdivision and development authority is the one who would be reviewing that application against council's policy rules.
Another concern I have is when you go to the liquor store, you buy wine or anything, right? You go and you drink, everybody say, "Yeah, call the police." When you smoke, right, you put in your pocket, you smoke, everybody thinks it's a cigarette. I'm head critic at the city of Lethbridge. Every day I walk. Trace of drugs and marijuana around package. So behind the school, right around the school. I'm head critic. I open the school and close the school. So I don't think it is, it's safer, in my opinion.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Caldwell, did you have your hand up?
I did not.
You did not, okay. Does anyone from council have any questions? All right, thank you very much. All right, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing at, what time is it here? 7:25 PM. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
I just have a question. When I arrived here, I thought was attendance, and I put my name in here. The amendment for
That's all right.
amendment, right?
No, that's okay. We'll just use that for our minutes.
Okay, because I came for this, not for this.
This one we'd already done, so we did that first. That was
Oh.
the first one we did.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move into our 13th regular meeting, and I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:26 PM. And to get started, I did want to recognize that today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and to again read our territorial acknowledgement. The town of Culvers is located in traditional Blackfoot Confederacy territory. We honor the Blackfoot people and their traditional ways of knowing and caring for this land, as well as all Indigenous peoples who have helped shape and continue to strengthen our community. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes for the 12th regular meeting held on June 7th?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
I move that the adoption of the minutes of the 12th regular meeting held June 7th, 2022.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. And then can I get a motion to adopt the special meeting minutes held on June 14th?
I can make that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. And then now we'll move into the adoption of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda? Great, thank you.
Will we adopt the agenda as your
Any discussion? None? All in favor? It's carried, thank you. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, I just wondered in terms of agenda, if we could possibly juggle a little bit and maybe discuss the bylaws while we have our town planner here, possibly before the 8 o'clock bell reach.
Yeah, sure can. Let's do that then. Let's jump down to section 8. And then we'll first start with bylaw number 434-22 and go into that. And so with this, I know that some of the discussion today via emails has been about if we needed time to gather more information or if we wanted to go to second and third readings. And so I guess I'd like to open that up to council to see what you would like to do with that.
We're talking the land use redesignation and like 434-22.
Yes. Do we feel like we need more time to gather more information, or do we feel like we have the information we need to go to? Go ahead.
Just for some clarification, that if you want to gather more information, you'll have to re-advertise and
Okay,
have another public hearing.
okay,
So if, that's probably a really good question, because we haven't done this a lot of times, that if that's maybe something to ask prior to closing the public hearing.
okay,
Because you could recess it and you can go get that information and then reopen the hearing. So at this point, it would be
we'd have to
discussion, or if you determine that you missed some information that you need, then we have to restart a public hearing to take on additional information.
So for clarification for myself then, does that mean that today, that like we have to make a decision?
You don't have to make a decision,
Okay,
but you can't talk about it. You
okay,
can't talk about anything outside the public hearing that's regarding the bylaw. You can't take on information from anyone who stops you in the street and says, hey, I missed the meeting last night, I need to tell you this. You can't take on that information. The only time you could is through another public hearing to invite them to speak to you at that time. But bylaws are good once you've, given them first reading, they can stay on the books for 2 years. And you don't have to do anything with them, but the question would be if you've closed the public hearing, because you've had enough information to proceed to a decision, whether or not you're going to approve or refuse, then I would suggest that that's probably the debate that council would want to have.
All right, that's great. Thank you for that information. It's very helpful.
Thank you. I'm prepared to move that bylaw number 434-22, land use bylaw amendment is hereby read a second time.
Any discussion? Councilor Lawrence.
Sorry, I just need further clarification. So with the procedure bylaw, I know we emailed about this earlier, but just with talking about postponing the discussion, so it won't be made immediately after the public hearing. Is that why we did have that break in our agenda? So that, or is it just,
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, basically, the public hearing is held, and there's no decision made at the public hearing. It then comes back to the council meeting to make the decision.
Okay.
So, and that's why, as we say, provided, unless there's information that was, somebody was in opposition or for something in great extent as to what you're proposing, then you may want to, consider delaying reading the bylaw. But if the information that you have, or there was no major opposition to it, and you've already given a first reading and heard from the public, then you are in a position that you could give a second and third reading tonight, or as Town Planner Horvath said, you could delay the reading of it or give it a second reading and leave it, but technically, as you said, you can't really get any further information without that further public hearing.
All right, great, thank you.
So did you want me to read bylaw 434-22 within the body of that motion?
To actually read it?
Yes, I made the motion.
Yeah.
That's hereby read a second time. Shall I read that bylaw?
Do we usually read? No, we don't actually read it.
Sorry?
We're good.
Oh.
Thank you, though. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Clemens.
Thank you. I just think that this is something that kind of needs to be done, and there's no opposition from the town, so I don't see a problem getting this one.
Great. Are you guys ready to vote? Question, all in favor? That is carried. And then would someone like to make a motion for the third reading?
Sure, I can do that.
Great, thank you.
I move that bylaw 434-22 land use bylaw amendment be given third and final reading, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign and seal the bylaw.
Any discussion? Are you ready to vote? All in favor? That is carried, thank you. So now we'll move on to the bylaw number 435-22. And now that we have that information, would anyone like to make a motion to have it read for a second time?
make that motion. I move that bylaw 435-22 land use bylaw amendment is hereby read a second time.
Any discussion? Are you ready to vote? No question, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. And then would someone like to make a motion for the third and final reading?
I'll make that motion for third and final reading. I'll move that bylaw number 435-22 land use bylaw amendment be given third and final reading, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign and seal the bylaw.
Any discussion? Seeing none, call question, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Thank you for your support, that was great. All right, since we are just going to be waiting, I believe that we have our delegation arriving at 8 o'clock. Maybe we'll just continue on with section 8 with the bylaws and reports, if that works for everybody. So moving into committee minutes, and starting with MSD. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, Madam Mayor, can we back up even to number 7?
Sure.
Business rising.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. Okay, we're jumping right there. Thank you, see you. All right, let's start there then. We'll start out with the National Police Federation quote of support. Let's see, you have anything for this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, as it indicates here, we did send a letter in support of this a while back, and now they're just looking for whether or not we would like to include a quote of support further to that. So I'm looking for that by June 20th, but I'm not sure they would still take it, so. Or we just leave it as we have support of it.
Any thoughts from anybody? I kind of wonder if because they were requesting this by yesterday, if we're just a little bit too late for this. Because they may have, because it sounds like they wanted to put it out in a news release, they might not have, it might be already done. Is my thought. Does anyone have any else on that one? Okay.
I agree.
If there's nothing there, we'll move to the next item, which is Lethbridge County regarding the development permit application, 2022-086, and I'll turn that over to Sia Hada.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, just we indicated we had some discussions with the applicant when the development permit was given to us for some comments. We had provided that to the county. The county come back and indicated that they had taken our comments into consideration, felt that the TIA traffic impact assessment was not necessary, and as a result of moving forward with the application, we did get notification at the last council meeting that they had basically approved it. And we now have, with this, the actual approval from the county that has been approved with the following conditions that are listed there. It does have a 21-day appeal period, and there was talk at the last meeting about, you know, is there anything further we can do to protect our road structure or road scenario in light of the agreements that we have in place and that type of stuff. So I did put together, you know, kind of the information that we had in terms of that and what we could or couldn't do. So basically, as indicated there, we have a memorandum of understanding, which has the Transportation Access Directive as part of it, does provide for a cost shared basis as stated, does speak to subdivisions and cost for studies that may be required if, you know, if there is that coming into play, as well the TIA or traffic impact assessment is addressed in our intermunicipal development plan. And further, the intermunicipal development plan does state that each municipality must be notified of any development or subdivision proposal that may affect the other prior to the application being considered as complete. And because of when the IDP was written and on the basis of changes to the MGA, whether that, you know, I guess it's a matter of determining whether it was deemed complete or not when it was provided to us without that notification being provided. But in talking to our town planner as well as our development officer, because of the changes in the legislation and stuff to that effect, she's considering it, you know, basically this is our notification that we have been provided. We did get a chance to provide the comments, of which we did. And as a result, that's something that maybe we need to address in further discussions with the intermunicipal committee, the wording in that particular area. There is, as indicated by the notice of decision, the option to appeal is there, cost of $500. So, I mean, if you felt, you know, that you had a chance of winning or that you could change the decision, that would be something you could do and go to a, you know, board of appeal. And then I guess the bottom line is it is something that could be discussed further in light of other developments. We had another development that came forward, not this one, but another one for that online auction, I think, or whatever. Sort of down at 392 there, which again would potentially put a little bit of traffic on the town's road as well. There was talk at one point even with the county about a country residential scenario going into place. I don't think that's really taken off yet. So again, you know, just a notification for those things. But in terms of the agreements, the understandings that we have in place, that's basically where we're at.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Ackermans.
Thank you, Nick. Just a comment more than anything, but I just appreciate having information here where I can kind of pick through it and kind of understand kind of the relationship that we have with the county. So I appreciate you bringing that forward to us.
Thank you. Other questions?
I guess maybe some comment as well, but maybe a question. Based on reading these, I don't know that there's any kind of significant teeth, I guess, or like a significant enough I don't know, feels like there'd be more damage than good to potentially put on this path of appeal. And, but I appreciate having some information here. I think the recommendation to bring this to a intermunicipal development committee is a good recommendation. And so I'd be prepared to make a motion on that regards.
Yeah. And would you like to make an actual motion for that then to?
I just wondered if we're done questions, I guess I can. Yeah. Right, so I move that we, for this item, and I guess, how do I phrase that, refer development, issues of development along the southwest road to the intermunicipal development committee for review.
Great. Any discussion or questions?
I agree, this one might be a great test for number 10 of our application access record. I think this would be a great test because if it says traffic studies may be required for discretion of municipalities, I don't know. Sort of, I'd like to get some clarity on what they would consider to be important enough to warrant that, or enough of the development to warrant that, because this fits the definition of the development within here. So the request is a reasonable request. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think that's important to have that conversation.
Any further comments, questions? So none, I'll call question, all in favor? That's great, thank you. Okay, so now we'll move on to the town of Pine River regarding the coal policy for Alberta. CEO Howden, I'll turn this over to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, there's been various correspondence in the past year plus, I guess, in terms of coal and coal mining along the Rocky Mountains there, et cetera. Definitely High River was one of the municipalities that were involved in this. They passed a more recent resolution, I guess, as of May 24th, that they feel, still going to the government to send documentation in that regard. And they're looking for, I guess, endorsement from municipalities in terms of this. And I guess at this point, we say that they're looking for an endorsement of their letter for help in their case. So if you wish to sign and support the policy as indicated there, it's just on the website there. So.
Any questions? Councilor Arquette?
Thank you. Just looking at this one here, I don't know if we have the actual pulse of the community on this one. I think that there may be people in the community that are employed in this industry, so if we are to kind of sign off on this, I don't know if that would be alienating them. I know we all have our own personal opinions on this one, which is great, but I don't know if we have the collective opinion on this one. So I'd be all right with just kind of leaving this one as is.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? No? All right, we'll move on to the next item. So this is the provincial EMS service planning team regarding EMS in Alberta. CEO Howden, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, we've had information from AHS in terms of looking at emergency services. We've seen some results of that. The 10-point plan that they came up with was provided previously. And again, as indicated here, as they continue to address these priorities, they're looking for ideas, innovation, et cetera. And again, looking forward by this Friday, I guess, in terms of what your input might be in terms of some of those changes that we've made and are working towards. Any concerns you have with the current state of emergency services?
Any questions or comments on this item?
I have a comment. When we look at Lethbridge, they operate a combined dispatch out of their fire halls with units and fire out of the same building. And I know we don't have any room in our current building for it to house an ambulance, but I wonder if it's something we should be considering when we plan for the future growth of our hall. That would include space for dispatch for an ambulance out of our home, if that's something that could be considered, I guess is my comment. I don't know if that applies to this, but it kind of does, I guess, but it's not something we do immediately, let's say.
Go ahead, Councilor Lawrence.
Yeah, I was, just in regards to like where it's at and this, this update, it seems a little bit of a miss for me, in terms of just, what's being reported on, because what this report is saying is that things are kind of going well, and what we're seeing out there is that things are in fact not going well. There's like long wait times for ambulances, there's ambulances in other communities that should be servicing their own communities, and it's really creating issues for a lot of us, especially in Cohurst. And so I think that if there's an opportunity to give some feedback, I think we should look into that. Because even these 6 priority areas, like I don't think they're awesome. I think that we should provide some feedback, and it might not be good feedback.
I agree. I wonder at the accuracy, or not the accuracy, I don't want to question that, but where the information came from. It sounds as though they received a lot of positive feedback and not the concerns that have been expressed. I mean, they do ask for, if we wanted to share anything further, but I don't know. What do you think? It should be a collective action, or it should be maybe something that is brought up at Mayors and Reeves to say this report may not reflect accurately some of the concerns that we've been expressing, and look at more of a collective action to it?
Councilor Lawrence, do you have a response to that?
No, if you had something, go ahead.
No,
Or sorry, that I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that would actually be a really good idea. Anything to bring more light to this important issue. And I think that Mayor Reeves too, with some of the.
You can just come and sit down. We're just finishing up a couple of things.
With some of the folks that have been on there for a while, and from the larger communities too, I think it would have some greater pool. I don't think it would be a bad idea for us to share, to have administer our thoughts. I know this is an area that we haven't had a lot of discussion around, but I think that even just having pulse in our community and talking to people and hearing the buzz, I think we kind of know where things are at. And so, yeah.
I wonder if there's something we could do through advocacy, through operating styles even as well. If other rural communities would be in support of some type of task force to look at this issue through a lens that's not so politicized from Minister's office, I guess.
Did you recall when they were speaking about this today? Do you remember? Because I think that this was in the president's report a little bit about this work today, and I'm trying to remember what she was saying.
I believe that they do have believe that they do have a working group around this. They have been, they've been doing some work around it. We'll have to bring it back and share more information, because they will be uploading the presentations, and then we'll be able to get some more accurate information. Where to make some noise. And that may be the direction to go, is to reach out to them to say that our concerns are somewhat different than what's being laid out here. I mean, it's worth, like, there is roundtable discussions at Mayors and Reeves system to just bring this up and just throw it up to the table to say what people think.
This has been brought up quite a lot there.
Yeah.
Prior to this, and there's been a lot of discussion, particularly from the rural communities, about basically saying what you're saying is that the wait time is so long, or that the ambulance is not going back to the home communities for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and it's not identified as priority, decreasing wait time, so, it's like
This is, thank you. Also just looking at this, it's inviting all Albertans, it doesn't have to be a council. Is this something that we want to give to our residents to provide input on, or is it something that everybody has access to?
From what it looks like to me, any Albertan can provide feedback, and maybe we should, I like that idea of putting it out to the community and let them have their say. And yeah, putting it out there, and then if we can do that as well too.
I guess the people who are in need of these services, and hopefully you don't need an ambulance all the time. So there might not be too many people who have direct experience with this in the recent years, but I think if we can cast a wider net, then we will have a better chance of getting some better feedback. So.
All right. So then, we're just gonna finish up this section, if this is okay with everybody. We'll just finish up with the MPE Engineering Limited. So yeah, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So at our last meeting, we did discuss, and we had our, Gavin Newby from MPE Engineering at the meeting, described sort of the tender process where we're at. We did have one little matter with the proper law and surety and that sort of stuff that we were addressing with legal. We have addressed that, and has been made to the point of where we are prepared to recommend moving with the low bidder of the tender process, and have that assurance from our legal people that that's the way it's been dealt with. And there is a clause in the tender documents that allows for that type of thing to take place, subject to what we did. So as a result of that, the recommendation is to award the tender to McNally Contractors at the amount as listed there. We did talk about at the last meeting a little bit about the possibility of whether or not to proceed with the RV sewer dump and that type of stuff. The recommendation I had in talking with our engineer in terms of that was to approve the tender as this, and it's much easier to make some change orders and different things, because you see there is an amount for unforeseen work allowance that if we use or don't use, or some changes that way. And it was not a big dollar figure, it was about a $50,000 item, if we chose to change that. So if you wanted to, put that or state that you did not want to proceed with that, we could say that, and the change order could be done, but we should approve the tender as per the dollars that are here, and then go from there. So, or if there's any other changes you want to make as well. But obviously there was the walking paths were listed in there, bridge, a little bit of lighting on the walking paths, hooking up some fresh water, potable water. So I think the only thing that we sort of talked about as maybe a non-item was the RV site right now. So.
Any questions on this?
Just a bit of a thought, if I might. I know that there's some conversation around sort of having a contract, people that are going to be looking at sort of installing plants and ceilings in there. And there's a contract that they'll be carrying for that for, what was the contract on that, for 1 year? But it was a 1 year guarantee, and
yeah, they won't be doing much of the planting until next spring. It was sort of
right,
so.
next spring.
Yeah.
But then the contract would be for them to care for that.
I believe, yeah, for a year or two, possibly, yeah.
So I understand about the need just for that, putting in the plants that are required for the wetlands, and then just sort of grass in the areas we identified. But it seems that it would make sense if we do have that excess of 15,000 from the RV dump, that perhaps we should look at some trees and some shrubbery, knowing that they're going to be cared for the first year of their life there. And it would enhance their lifespan as well, right? And their chances of surviving. Just sort of expand that a little bit for us. Might not be a bad idea. And, we'll take the burden off of our public works to, the first year they really require a lot of care to do well.
All right. Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion or a version of a motion? There's the proposed one.
Sure, I can do that.
Go ahead.
I move that the council of the town of Colehurst hereby accepts the recommendation from MPE Engineering Limited and awards the tender for the main constructed wetland to Low Bidder McNally Contractors 2011 Limited from Lethbridge, Alberta, for the amount of $4,932,503.73, which includes a $350,000 unforeseen work allowance and 5% GST. And if we can just add about removal of the RV dump on there, I don't know exactly the best way to word that.
As a change order.
Yeah, as a change order.
Did we want that within this motion, or we were going to put the change order in at a later date? What was the recommendation on that?
The recommendation was that we accept the tender for the dollar figure listed there. I can communicate to our engineers that we want that pulled out, and there would be change orders done for that. And if you wanted things such as trees or different things that Deputy Mayor Caldwell talked about, I can talk to them about that too, in terms of some changes out there.
So just for clarification, is it recommended that we don't have that?
I think we just leave it off of here and we
Okay,
just
sure,
talk
I'm
about
all
it.
right with that.
Sound agreeable?
But I would definitely communicate that will not be put in at this point.
Great, thank you.
Perfect.
Any discussion on this item?
It's been many years. It's been many years in the making. This is just really exciting. That's all.
There we go.
I'm so happy.
Further discussion? Sina? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Madam Mayor, so in terms of trees, any comment on that I pass on or not at this point?
I think it's a good idea. I like what you're saying regarding the trees, right? That like if they're gonna be caring for them, we might as well capital it on that year.
Yeah, exactly, because if one of them happens to die, we get a warranty on that
Yeah.
replacement, right? Whereas if we do it ourselves, then we're not a tree, we just have a shot tree. Yeah.
So would we be able to count on maybe Sarah wouldn't be there any longer, would she? So some of her skill set in terms of identifying certain types and maybe some locations?
Yeah, definitely work with her in terms of that. You know, Gavin is aware of her expertise. So yeah, we'll work with them and we can bring sort of some indications forward at some point.
Great.
Thank you.
Any further thoughts? We'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, so now we're gonna jump back up to our delegations. I'm gonna guess, is your name Kiara?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I was like, I don't know who's here, but you can come and join us here. Thank you so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have some people come to the council chambers today, and we're excited to hear a little bit more about you. And we read your essay, which was fantastic. So what I'm going to do just right now is just turn it over to you, and you can tell us anything you'd like, and then we might have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah, oh goodness, I've been volunteering pretty much for the last 17 years in the town. My mom first started when she was pregnant with me. So it's kind of been everything from there, from miners' days to the parades, the breakfasts, the fun runs, all of it. And I really want to actually turn it around to make it something that I can use and help as much as I can, whether it's in the community or even just around the community. And I want to take the money that I potentially could earn, and I want to travel and explore my options to be able to further my career in whatever path I may choose. It's not necessarily decided yet, but I want to be able to build that foundation so when I do decide, I can put it towards my education or anything that'll be applicable in the future.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. Does council have any questions? Go ahead,
I
Councilor
have
Hines.
just one question for you. What was your favorite volunteering experience that you had?
Oh goodness. I'd probably say when I was younger, it wasn't necessarily volunteering, it was more so we'd always joke about me being voluntold in that aspect, because it wasn't necessarily I had a choice. I wasn't old enough to stay home by myself. So it was more so the volunteering when and where I could, and it was the getting to still have fun going down the bouncy castles, the endless slip and slides. I lived in the slip and slide in the pools. That's probably my favorite part. And even just getting to participate with the community and getting to communicate with everyone and getting to know their stories in that aspect. At least that's my favorite.
Awesome. That's great. Other questions from council?
So do you have any ideas of what you might like?
I've-
Is there a few that you're kind of pondering?
I've had many. I decided I wanted to be a teacher, and I think it's like grade 3. But then I realized how difficult it was and that it's a lot of work. And so I was like, And then I'm really looking at even a behavioral analysis in that aspect and focusing on children with autism and being able to develop that further because a lot of the children end up going undiagnosed in that aspect. And so I was really looking at that as more so focusing on. So I want to take a year off just to figure out if anything else sticks out and if there's anything that becomes more applicable in my mind, and that'll be more applicable in the future as of the economy and even just the world in itself.
I don't suppose you brought any pictures, did you?
I have some on my phone.
I love the idea that you were sort of the photographer of record for the school.
Yeah, it's my third year doing it now, and so I was voluntold because my sister did it prior, and so the teachers were like, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Not really." They're like, "Oh, then you don't have a choice." And I was like, "Okay." And so I kind of just dived right into it, and I ended up working out because my sister had all the equipment anyway because she still does the photography for part-time. And I honestly, it also is a good access to even just being able to communicate with the community even further and just getting to spend time out and about with people and meeting the new faces. And I'm partly going to be sad about not being able to do it next year, but at the same time I'm not because it was a heavy workload, especially being one of the only ones that actually knows what they're doing this year. But it definitely paid off for sure.
I have some of your sister's work in my home. That's why I was excited to see yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Councilor Flores.
Not so much as a question as a comment. I just want to say thank you for coming, and I loved reading your letter and reading about all the involvement, and I think that's super cool, especially the minors' days and helping out. I love what you said about being a gopher. That's great. So, thank you.
And I have to say that I love leadership, and so this essay was something that I was really enjoying reading from everybody. And the part where you said to be willing to provide constructive direction and accept constructive criticism, I just think that that's such a wise thing that's coming from you, and it's something that's so important and that really makes a good leader. So I just think that's excellent that you've already, you figured that out and you're already doing that. So good job.
Yeah, it was definitely, when I started out when I was younger, it was kind of the voluntold aspect, but then I learned more about actual leadership and what is the more so parameters behind it, and I ended up actually being shaped from it because I started in that environment. So now I want to continue in that environment and actually be able to make a difference more so than just kind of following along and actually make a change towards something.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's awesome.
So is Kim Hart or Mom?
Indeed.
And you understand that voluntold.
Yeah, exactly, I do now. Yeah, actually, I want to echo what Marian said about your essay too. I like what you said about not expecting others to do more time or committee than willing to do. I think that's a very important aspect of leadership. Is there's so many managers out there that's like, I do this, and I'm just going to sit around. I think it's lead by example, lead by put in the sweat is a great quality, and I appreciate that you mentioned that in your essay. So.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. It was so nice to have you here. And you've done graduation now, right?
Yeah, I have my diploma on the 23rd, and then I'm done.
And then you're done. And then you're taking a year off, so that's exciting.
It's terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it because it's a whole new opportunity of the unknown.
Exactly. Lots of opportunity. Do so many things.
It's terrifying, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, congratulations.
I'm done with school.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you very much. Unless you have any questions for us, that was great, and it was so nice to meet you and to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you. I think you guys pretty much covered everything. It's more so just looking forward to future opportunities with the town and being able to participate in the community and hopefully getting back to some sort of normalcy in that aspect as towards the parades and minors' days and everything.
Well, don't you worry, there'll be opportunities for you.
Fingers crossed. I miss it. I never thought I would say that, but I do miss it. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. That is, that was great.
That's fantastic, yeah.
Do we have anyone else out there?
Is anyone else here for the,
Yeah.
oh, you both of you? Okay.
Just two more.
One at a time?
It does, yeah, sure. That one.
Okay, next, thanks.
Good job, good job.
Right here?
Yeah, come and join us. Can you let us know what your name is?
Evan Weeks.
Evan Weeks, okay, because I didn't know if you were Evan or Jaden, so this is great.
Jane's the guy after me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've had more people in the council chambers today than I think we ever have. So this is really exciting. What we're gonna do is just allow you to just kind of tell us whatever you'd like to tell us. We've all read your essay, and then we might ask you some questions. You can ask us any questions too.
Sure. Sounds
Turn it
good.
over to you. Yeah.
So I have lived in Colehurst for 7 years now. Sorry, 9 years. Time flies. And it's just been a great experience here. I used to live in Red Cliff, which is a small town outside of Medicine Hat. So going to another small town here that's very welcoming is a great experience. Just my experience with the elementary and the high school have been great. I very much enjoyed my education here, as well as just getting to know everybody in the community. And just as a community, it's nice to know it in and out just because of the smallness factor, you know? As to that, Colehurst High School has been really good to me. I've done very well with honors with distinction for grades 7 to 12, and just enjoyed playing on the sports teams, joining various activities like student council, helping with student council events like DJing at dances, as well as like Halloween, Christmas, etc. The school just really enables a sense of community and getting to know people, and I really appreciated that, as well as getting to know the teachers and staff. I am graduating this year. Surprise, surprise, I'm here for this. And then I'm going to U of L for computer science, and I look forward to it because it's just a whole new experience where I get to seek education and learn things I finally get to choose. But as well, it's just a liberal arts education where it allows me to diversify and meet lots of new people, which I really look forward to.
That's great. So I work at the university too.
Oh, wow.
In my day job, and I did my undergrad degree at the university as well. And so when you're talking about liberal arts or liberal education, man, you could like help us really sell that to some people, because a lot of people don't even know what that means. So that's awesome. That's very exciting. Council, I'm gonna open it up to you to see if you have any questions. Go ahead, Councilor Ackermans.
Thank you. I'll ask the same question I asked Kira. What's your favorite volunteering opportunity that you've had in the past?
I'd say my favorite volunteering experience was at the neighborhood play program here in Colehurst at the Einers Park. It was just really fun to be able to cooperate with kids and kind of role model for them, teaching and just having fun and allowing them to be themselves, but also teaching them lessons in the sense that how to cooperate and build social skills with each other. And overall, it was just a really good experience. It taught me a lot of things about just dealing with people, as well as being a leader and role modeling. In addition to that, it was just really fun.
Awesome.
Lots of games and activities.
That's awesome.
I love that you did that. I'm wondering, how did you come to be a volunteer with the play program?
I had gone, so for my first 2 years here, I had gone to that program and enjoyed it so much. And it's only, I think, like ages 7 to 12. However, after that, you can volunteer and help with the setup and just running of things. And I took that opportunity because I enjoyed it so much, and just cooperating with the other kids, just interacting with them. So I took no hesitation for the summer just to volunteer there. Unfortunately, I didn't get to track my volunteer hours before, I think 2020, something like, or 2019 perhaps. Because, well, 2019, I just did it for this high school credit program where I could get credits for my volunteer hours. But I was a regular all summer there.
That's great. Go ahead, Councilor Florence.
Thank you for bringing this forward and speaking to us about it. I just had a question about the theatrical program at the school.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, it was a Christmas production just in I was in grade 9, so that would have been 2019 / the 2020 year. It was a Christmas production for CHS. It was run by Mrs. Moffat and Mrs. Swen at the high school. In it, I got to play one of the characters where basically the plot was all these villains from various Christmas stories and, well, non-Christmas stories alike came together for a feast and then learned about the power of giving gifts. It was a very cute and fun experience. I really enjoyed cooperating with the other people and just having fun to produce something that people can enjoy. And to that extent, we ended up presenting to whoever came to the high school, so the community, as well as the Colehurst Legion, where we did a performance there.
I saw that performance.
Oh yeah, did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was great. That's very entertaining.
That's awesome. Thank you for answering that.
No problem.
I love that. I love that you appreciate the power of a smile in here. That's very nice.
Anything to brighten a person's day, you know?
Right. I love that.
In looking at this, one of the things that I was noticing is that you said that you're involved with the school student council. I did that when I was in high school a long time ago. And that was a really cool thing and a really great learning opportunity and ways to develop your leadership skills. What was your favorite thing that you did with student council?
It's quite a funny story. On one of the Christmas, or it might have been Halloween days, basically we had set up all these stations which classes would shift between. And for ours, there was this Would You Rather challenge where me and a friend set up, the Would You Rather, and it was between like gross foods. So like taking a bite of a chili pepper or drinking a shot of soy sauce.
Nice.
We got to be really creative with it, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Just it was fun, maybe more so for us than the people doing it. But regardless, I think everybody enjoyed it, and it made me happy to see everybody getting something out of it.
Yeah, that's very cool. I will tell you that my favorite thing that I did when I was in school or student council, we did cow pie bingo, which is a very picture view like thing to do, I think. But basically, it was where we had a baby calf, and we created a big crib, and wherever there was a cow pie made, you could win.
That does sound a lot like picture view.
It was a picture view. It was great.
Oversharing.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. Everyone really enjoyed that day.
I think we did something like that here at the school.
See?
Oh goodness.
It's a Southern Alberta thing.
It is. It's a Alberta thing.
Is there any other questions from council?
I do, if I could.
Yeah.
I really, you said a personal side to my own leadership is my having a close family member with a disability.
Yes.
And so I love how that inspires you to reach out and engage with the students that are living with disabilities. And can you share with me just an experience that you've had or when have you identified sort of a challenge that you helped one of them address?
I mean, there's many more instances interacting with some of the disabled students in our school, and it's always nice to just help them out wherever possible. But I always remember back to grade 9, after we had finished our exams, the elementary school was doing the color run, and Dom, a disabled student at our school, was there, and we had to do an activity which was a 3-legged race, and me and him were partners. So it was really fun in doing that with him. He was just smiling the whole time, and I really appreciated that. But for the latter end, we were kind of discoordinated. So on the second half, I just lifted him up and ran. And I think we actually won, but it was quite fun.
That's great.
I love hearing those stories, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, do you have any questions for us?
It's just, I mean, it's an interesting thing to finally be at this stage of graduation, to see the town finally like develop and evolve, you know? And it's just curious to see the community like building, especially all the projects around. I guess my biggest thought is just hope, or more so curiosity, what will happen to the high school as it reaches a capacity where classes are almost filled to the brim. I mean, I know it's more up to school boards, but is there any plans in the work for our high school or elementary?
It's interesting you say that.
We had a meeting yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
To start looking at that process, to see what it looks like in Colhurst in the next 10, 20,
Oh, that's
40
awesome.
years for schools. So
Yeah.
we sat down with members. We even had our MLA show up for a portion of it, Joseph
Wow.
Scow, and we had, of course, members from the town, architects, engineers, school division people, teachers, and principals. So it was a really wide group, multidisciplinary team.
That's good.
Just looking at all the options, we're dreaming, we're saying, what could this be, right? Is it better to renovate the school, or just build a new school, or have 3 schools, like middle school, high school, elementary school? So it's really open-ended at this point, and we're in the middle of it. Actually, we'll do 2 more sessions, and at the end of it, hopefully we'll have a clear vision that we can present towards the Alberta government and get their feedback, or get their hopefully we'll have our support there, and then hopefully we're waiting. We'll get some government support for that,
Right.
and funding to actually make that a reality. Hopefully in not before it becomes a problem, right? So
Yeah, I'm very glad. It's very nice to hear that, just because you want to know what happens to a community you have such an attachment to as you move on to post-secondary, right? But it is very pleasing to hear that.
So I guess I have a question for you in response to that. If you were to think of one thing that you would love to see in your high school, what do you think that might be if you were visioning about a future in that school?
Just being on the sports teams kind of gives me this bias, but the biggest thing I look forward to in a new school is a bigger gymnasium. I mean, it's certainly not the workers, like if you've ever been to Lundbrook High School, that's very small, but I've grown an affection for our gymnasium, but at the same time, I see the improvement. I would love a bigger gymnasium, not just for myself, but to allow other students to fully experience physical education and use it to their full potential. And I believe that it could really help gym classes further divide up, as I see current gym classes struggle between going outside and staying inside, and just having almost 30 students all in one area.
Good to know, thank you.
That's great feedback. Thank you. Well, if you don't have any further questions for us, it was really great to meet you. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll see you around the U of L campus.
Hopefully.
And I'll be there, and I hope that you enjoy your summer and then get into school. And it was really nice to meet you and for you to come in and chat with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You as well. Thank you for your time.
So Jaden.
Come on in. You can come and take a seat here.
All right.
This is slightly bigger than I thought it'd be.
Is this the first time you've been in here?
I've been in the office a handful of times when I was younger, but never in here.
Yeah, well,
And every time I've been here, that door was always closed. So it's
well, you can join us at our council meetings any Tuesday night if you want.
I might do that.
If you really want to come, you're more than welcome to. Thank you so much for coming and meeting with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We had a chance to read through your essay and we're very impressed with it. But basically, I'm just gonna open up the floor for you to tell us anything you'd like to tell us. And then some council members will ask you some questions and you can ask us any questions that you might have too.
Okay. Yeah, I've lived in Colhurst here for, I think 10 to 11 years. I remember moving in here in grade 2. Yeah, no, 2. I lived out in Monarch, the small town for like 4 or 5 years, and wonderful small town. The people there were all nice. But no, I've lived here all my life, well, pretty much all my life, and I've gone to this elementary school and to high school since preschool. Ever since pretty much day one, it was just here. Yeah. And, yeah, since I've lived here, I've tried, especially the past 2-3 years, I've come out more, but I've tried to always help my neighbors wherever I can. And it's especially become more prominent the past, oh God, it's nearly been 3 years. 3 years where I live in the trailer park, and I do my best to help out the elderly whenever I can. Yeah, especially with my backdoor neighbors, Rod and Bernadette DeChateau. They are the most wonderful people you could ever meet, and they're both up there in age, and they're both kind of, well, physically they're not as good as they used to be. Bernadette's can only walk with a walker, and Rod has a thin blood, so whenever they need a lot more stuff done, I always make sure I'm free for them. There was one point I was out at a party with some friends, and they called. They were calling just to ask if I wanted to come over for some supper or whatever. By the time I picked up the phone, I already had my coat on and was out the door because I figured they needed something.
They're lucky to have you.
Yeah.
No, that's very nice of you.
You know, they are the amazing people, and I've also tried to help out the other folks in the trailer park. Before his passing, Ray, he lived nearby. He needed always just a few odds and ends done, and I tried my best to help when I could. Mostly with sorry, I'm stuttering. Mostly with yard work, and as I wrote down in the essay, I believe I did. Joy and Dawn, I'm blanking on their last names. They moved away 4 months ago, but up until they did, I would make sure to go over, help with the shoveling, and they had this this backyard project where I had to level out their entire backyard and then place down cement blocks as level as you could get with the earth slipping and sliding, and yeah, they're good people as well. Yeah, and I'm stuttering again.
No, that's okay. And do you know what? When you're doing, like, I think that as you're talking about that, I think that's so important. And I used to work with, I work with the Ministry of Seniors and Housing, and really got to understand how important that type of support is to seniors and people that, need that type of help. And so being willing to do that is just an amazing thing. And it's something that oftentimes communities are trying to build programs around. And so the fact that you're just going out there and doing that for your neighbors is just wonderful.
It was something I didn't quite realize was so important. This was important until I started helping out Rod and Bernadette. They were the first ones I really got to know and start helping. And it wasn't until I started helping them that I realized just how important it is. Because all the elderly people in my family, they're all relatively self-efficient, right? Mm-hmm. My great grandpa, he's in 2 weeks he'll be 96, and he's still out doing his own yard work. He's still out golfing on his own little golf thing.
Yeah.
He lives out in Anchorage, and he built in his own golf course. And it's
pretty cool.
Every day at least every other day, where he always goes out and starts golfing. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, pretty much everyone in my family, they're all self-sufficient. So I never really saw, you know, I never really had a chance to see people who needed more help up there. And now that I'm helping, like doing my best here, I see how more important it is than I ever thought it was originally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Coachy.
You know, I really appreciate what you're saying about helping seniors. I remember my dad, he was a good example to me. He would take me out and say, you know, we're going to help this lady clear your yard, this guy move out or whatever. I used to complain.
Look how good you are now.
So when I hear your story, I'm like, it gets me worried. So how did you see any? How did you start? I guess I'm curious. How did this all get going? Was your dad, you know, pushing you?
Yeah, kinda. It's actually a funny story. Me and my dad, we were our backyard fence that you know blocked us off from Rod. That had been there longer than the trailer we lived in was. And it was like rotting, like parts of the board were just already gone. They were gone when we moved there. And we were looking at it, and Rod came out. We started talking to him, asking him like he would be fine if we moved down the fence. He said sure. And then he motioned over to his shed. And I couldn't see it because of our shed was perfectly blocking it by this point. But apparently our neighbor's house before it burnt down, it was the roof was at such a perfect angle that once, like during a blizzard, all the snow just fell right onto the shed, completely destroying the roof.
Oh.
Yeah, like it was, like you looked at it, it was gone. Like it completely caved in. And he looked at it, was like, hey, do you mind if you can he just needed a hand just bringing it down. And of course, you know, I was kind of hesitant because it was like, not only had I never seen this man before, but I was also at that point still very much in a kind of my shell, right? But my dad was very pushy with it. He was like, "Oh yeah, no, he'll help. You need other stuff done too? Yeah, he can help with that." It's like, yeah, Rod was like, "Yeah, I can use some help with cleaning the windows." Yeah, he'll do that. He'll do that for you too. And the next day, after school, I was over there, just cleaning off, power washing his deck, and then
Was that after the windows and everything?
Oh no, the window.
You had to work.
First it was the window. No, the power washing the deck, and since we had the power wash out, it was then just the windows. And then after that, the next day it was the shed. And I still remember this vividly. I was looking at it, I was like, because I still wasn't comfortable talking with him yet. So I was like, Mr. DeCecco, so how do you want to take this out? Because the screws were all rusted. The shed had been there for well over 30 years. It's like, so how do you want to take this down, Mr. DeCecco? Some of the screws, I've never seen these bits before, and they're very at an awkward angle. So he goes into the house and hands me an extension cord and a saw. So I spent the entire day just cutting at this shed with a saw and just throwing all the stuff in the corner. I was like, "You sure that's safe there?" Because he has a dog. I was like, "I think I might cut the dog." And he's like, "No, it'll be fine. Kelly won't go over there. I got a thing coming in the next day." And the next, and I got that one done. It was buried between the stairs and that shed was another shed. The door of that was boarded up. Like I don't think he mentioned this. Rod hadn't been in there in well over 5-10 years. I was like, so you want me to try to get the plywood off this one? He went, well, you got a saw, don't you? I got plans here. We need that shed down. So same day, the other shed, that went down.
Well, there you go.
My ears were ringing for a solid week after. And then the next day I had to throw all the stuff into the shed, into the litter. Yeah, I think it's called a litter bug box. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him after he came back because he had to go take Bernadette to a doctor's appointment. He was like, so, because summer was nearing. He was like, so, what's your plans for the summer? Oh, probably nothing much, mostly sit around. Good. So you're free to help me build a shed. I was like, wait, what? So for the next month and a half, I went over every day at 10 o'clock sharp, came home 3 to 6 every day, and just worked on his shed.
That's great.
Yeah,
You know, that initially sounded like a punchline for a good joke.
The way Rod tells it to his family, he does make it sound like a joke.
That's great. So can I ask a question that's not about sheds, but about your school?
Sure.
Who's your favorite teacher there? I won't tell anybody,
Oh,
but.
well, bias-wise, considering he was my only teacher for the most of grade 7, I would probably have to say Mr. Moffat. But Mr. Swen is also amazing. He's the science teacher, and he's just. I've really never had a teacher like him before, and somehow I doubt I'll have one since I'm not going to be in high school anymore.
You know, I have a CD of Mr. Moffat's music somewhere.
Yeah.
From when he played in a band.
Yeah,
I think you picked the two of the best.
Yeah.
There
You know,
are many best.
You know, my my sister, I still find this hilarious. My sister in particular bugged Mr. Moffat enough to get him to put the album of, what's it called, Crystallize, I think it is, or Catalyst. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she bugged him for 3 weeks, and eventually she got him to put it up on the Spotify, YouTube.
Oh,
And,
so we'll have to look it up, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I cannot remember what the album's called to save my life now. The guitar on that is actually really good, surprising. Like, it surprised me how good the guitar is. I know Moffat always it kind of brags about how he's a really good guitarist. And when you listen to him play, because I'm not sure if he's still doing it now. At least when I was in junior high, he would have a guitar class, right? And from there you can tell he's very proficient in it. But even on the album, because if I'm remembering correctly, he said he did the bass guitar, I think. And yeah, you can, like, the guitar on that is just amazing.
Yeah, he does have some skills, doesn't he?
That's very cool. Councilor Florence, did you have a question?
I just wanted to say, Jaden, that I thought you did a really good job presenting, and I really enjoyed reading your essay. And I love that you put in here about a leader being willing to help others as a true leader in the community.
Yeah.
And then when you were speaking, you mentioned several of your neighbors by name, and I just thought that that was very, very sweet and kind. And I think that is a true example of leadership, is to be a true leader in the community. And I think you're doing that. So
Thank
good
you.
job.
Because yeah, I'll be honest here when I say especially when I was younger, I was very shut off. So I didn't have a whole lot of leadership, like volunteer practice. So it hasn't been up till, since I started working with Rod, especially here, that I really started understanding the importance of a leader. Like, they drill it in elementary school, being a leader is great, it's amazing, but it's not until you are actually there practicing leadership and helping others that at least for me, that's when it kind of clicked in that, this is, they're actually not being hyperbolic here. This is, it's a real thing, and it's very different from just hearing other people discuss how they're a leader.
I love that. I love that you were mentored and you recognize that, and then I can hopefully look for mentorship opportunities further down the road too, where you can pass on that too, right?
Yeah, I'm trying my best here, especially with my sister here,
Yeah.
because she would not want me to admit this at all, but she is pretty much where she is right now, exactly like where I was when I was her age, closed off except with her friends, and not really, helping anyone, especially with so I'm trying my best to get her to see it as well. I'm beginning to see why some of my teachers looked at me like with frustration when I would just kind of be like, just brush them off when they were discussing leadership. Because, the way she'll kind of just look at me and just brush me off whenever I ask her, since, like, Jesse, I'm working today. Can you please go over and help Rod with the groceries? Because I know he's bringing groceries home. He's got, knowing him, he's going to buy like 17 things of cat litter. He can't. I know. Bernadette, they'll order the groceries online, and Bernadette always orders like 2 to 3 extra things of cat litter. And it's always like the heavy duty stuff, like the ones that on their own weigh like 2 kilograms. And so I was like, can you please just go over when they need you and help? And she's like, yeah. And lo and behold,
I've been one of these days, I'm going to delve into the cat litter story, though, just out of the So can I ask, so are you registered at the university yet, or is that something you're looking at?
I'm registered in, and I got the fees paid up till my tuition.
Not really.
I've
Here.
been receiving all the emails, and I've been, well, what I'm trying to say here, I'm losing my train of thought, sorry. So yeah, I'm fully registered with the University of Lethbridge, and this fall I am going to attend.
I think you make a remarkable teacher.
Thank you.
I think you really will be.
If I can even be half as good of a teacher as, say, Swen or Moffat is, I will be an achievement on its own.
Yeah, you're well on your way.
Thank you.
Well, do you know, I work there, so I
Yeah.
will see you around campus maybe.
Yeah.
And then when you become an alum, I should tell everybody this, when you graduate, if you come and find me then, I will give you an alumni sweater. I will only give them to people that are alumni, so.
I'll see if I can
You
keep
gotta
you.
come and find me then after you're done your school, and
I'll see if I can keep you on that promise.
there you go, yeah. That'll be great. I look forward to potentially seeing you around campus and,
Yeah.
and like Deputy Mayor Caldwell said, you are going to be a great teacher, and I think that, what you're really exhibiting is, you're going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any arguments?
Just want to ask you the question that I've asked the other ones. What is your favorite volunteering or helping out memory that you have? Obviously, the shed was a great story
Yeah.
that really stands out, but do you have anything else that really stands out to you?
Well, a few things here and there is when it comes to like school volunteering, because I didn't realize this would be classified as it until I overheard Evan bringing it up. But with the plays at the school, I did my best to be in all three. I got called into the second one, the first one halfway through when I can't remember who it was, but the person playing the first card, it was a Alice in Wonderland play. I don't know if any of you were there for that, but he had to drop out, and Miss Moffat remembered because we had to do. I was helping out in the. I picked the auction class where I had to help out with props and sets, and she remembered because we did a class reading of it. She remembered that I did very good for it, so she came in like I was leaving. If I remember correctly, she cornered me in the classroom and was like, "Hey, you want to be in the play?" It's like, sure, I guess. Okay, we're having a rehearsal right now. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and after that, I intentionally, in this point, went in with the second one, which was the Christmas play Evan was talking about. And as well, I was going to be in the third one, which was what even was that one about, actually, now I remember. I can't remember the plot of it off the top of my head, but I remember it had something to do with the Seven Dwarves. And I cannot remember what that one was about to save my life here. I remember enjoying being in it, but we were going to be in that, and then COVID came. And that suddenly you couldn't do a play anymore, which that sucked. That's especially the first one with the first two nights where we were actually doing it, presenting in front of the school and the younger kids. That felt really amazing, especially when you would ad-lib, or the other person was ad-libbing, and you just roll with it, and you just hear all the the little kids just erupt in laughter. And that was. There's nothing quite like a child laughing. I'll be honest with that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us? And you don't have to have questions for us. This isn't a job interview. But that's just if you have anything you'd like to ask us.
Yeah. The only question I have was this, because of course it was the same one Evan asked about the schools.
Yeah. Did you hear? Kids of Coach kind of talked a little bit about it.
I heard bits and pieces of it.
Sure. Do you want to?
So just yesterday we had a visioning session, first of 3, where we're looking at the future of schools in Colhurst, because we know, of course, the elementary school is filling up, and then the high school. So in 10 years, we're going to be pretty full in terms of our schools. And so we had a group of a bunch of people from the community. We had teachers, people from the school division, the mayor and deputy mayor there, architects, and engineers, cost consultants, a big group of people, a multidisciplinary team, and we started looking at what are the possible ideas out there in terms of how can we deliver better education in Colhurst. Does that mean something new schools? Does that mean renovating schools? Does that mean we need to change the programming? Bigger data, whatever. It's kind of everything that we're dreaming of for our community. we're kind of throwing our ideas out there at this point, and we're gonna refine that through the next two sessions, and try and get to the heart of and the best option, I guess, for our community for 10, 20, 40 years in the future, right? So yeah, so it's exciting because we, there's a lot of potential there. The thing is, we don't necessarily have funding for the project yet from the government yet. So we'll be taking this visioning idea, this solution for educational loaners, we'll take that to the provincial government, and they'll be reviewing it with all the other projects that are going on in the province, and we'll say, these are the ones that are the best, and we'll fund those. Maybe we'll get it next year, I'm not sure, but hopefully we can put together something that's compelling enough for them to look at later. So.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you can come back up here and teach after you get your degree.
Yeah, honestly,
Right?
yeah, honestly, that's kind of what I was hoping to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because on top of this, the community here being absolutely wonderful, and I have so many positive memories of both the elementary and high school. I mean, it's the only two schools I've ever been to. Might as well try to keep it like that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak with us tonight. It was really nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll see you around the U of L campus. And
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me.
you're very welcome. Thank you for coming in. All right, have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful evening, all of you.
You too. See you. Weren't they just lovely?
First council meeting yet?
Yeah, no kidding. They were great.
We do this every.
Yeah.
We can get kids to come every week.
Well, hey, maybe he's gonna join us at one of our meetings. So what is the process now of like how we actually do we go to a closed session or do we do it, like how does that usually work?
Usually we, just pass the motion and open.
Okay.
I mean, you can go close if you'd like, but at this point, it's not set up that way.
Okay.
And generally, sometimes they do it, the grade 12s, because you just have them.
Yeah.
Do it that way, or you can do it with the other grades down at the bottom, just have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Should we do it with the other grades?
Yeah, does that work for everybody? Okay. All right, well then let's just move on here. Okay, so we're jumping down again and going to committee minutes. And so starting with MSDA, is there anything that needs to be highlighted for MSDA? Has everyone would have received the minutes? Is there any questions or anything that anyone has? If there's none, we're gonna keep on trucking. Okay. We'll move down to policy bylaw review committee. I see that there are a couple of different items here, so I'm going to let Councillor Florence and Councillor Ackerman speak to those different items we have here.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. One thing that we did have was we had the Director of Operations, Kevin Lewis, and our Administrative Assistant for Utilities Clerk, Kathy McCann, Mary King, join us. So they were just providing a little bit of input with regards to some of the concerns about the Miners Park, just the rentals and the soccer, and just kind of how it affects the town and kind of what's going on there, just so that we could kind of get a little bit more to make the policy match the procedure for what's actually happening. And then they are also speaking to us with regards to water meters. So there's a recommendation that came out of that. Essentially what they want to do is they want to put a $500 refundable deposit with a development permit so that the water meter is installed at the correct time. Because what happens sometimes, not all the time, is they'll hook up the water, but then there won't be a meter. And then when somebody buys a house, they'll be on hook for the water usage up to that point, right? So just installing that meter earlier, make sure that it's accurately charged to the correct individual. If the builder or builders are using the water, then it's not on the homeowner at that point. So it kind of protects the homeowner, but also would keep the builders a little bit honest. With talks about the other communities, the $500 deposit is kind of similar to what we're seeing in different communities. So that number is kind of based on the order research that they have there. Yes.
Do you want to start with that first recommendation?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go through them one by one like that?
Yeah.
If that works.
So I move that the Council of Town of Colehurst hereby authorize administration to draft an amendment to policy number 660202, development permits, to include the addition of a refundable deposit of $500 paid upon submission of the development permit application process to ensure a water meter is installed at the correct time to help cover the cost of water being used at the time of construction.
Any discussion on this item?
I guess I'm very interested to see how that policy will turn out. It's like the operating policy, but practical policy. Right, so I would like, yeah, I would very much like to see how that comes out and see what, maybe some examples for other communities as well, so.
Any further discussion? And then we'll call the question then. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Great. Move on to the next one. What was it, Councillor Florence, that you had a recommendation, I believe?
Yeah, so I moved that the council of the town of Colehurst hereby draft an amendment to bylaw number 236-97, a bylaw to provide for the payment of an allowance on the prepayment of taxes and for penalties to be charged on non-payment of taxes, and bylaw number 267-99. A bylaw to amend bylaw number 236-97 to remove the prepayment allowance provision. Sounds mouthful.
Any discussion on this item?
Sorry, could you give us some background on it a little bit, Councilor Florence, or whoever?
Sure. So we have actually had our Director of Corporate Services, Mike Passy, come in and talk to us about this one. And so he brought this forward as a recommendation to do this because it is the prepayment and the prepayment option actually only saves like pennies to each individual person, and it takes a lot of time for admin to do, making it not worth it. As well, we are getting everybody to move over to the what was that? The pre-authorized tax payment plan, right? Was that it, or
Tip.
Oh, I wanted to call it TIP, and I was like, that can't be it. But yeah, okay, the TIP program, and so that is we also want to kind of get everybody on that and maybe incentivize it a little bit. And so really, it just was kind of an outdated thing, the prepayment, as it used to be more of a thing that people did when they wrote checks or did things by hand. If they came in early, they would get a little bit of a discount. But yeah, we kind of were moving away from that and trying to transition to the TIP program. And this was a recommendation from our Director of Corporate Services. So we did have some questions about that, removing of the prepayment allowance, because there are some older members in our community who might be concerned about that. But our Mike, our Director of Corporate Services, has assured us that the savings are so little that it really won't add up too much.
Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, just to add a little bit on there, I think he was saying that it was about $220 to run the process for the year, and I think the combined amount shared between everyone throughout the town is only $530 in savings. So the TIP program, what that is too, is it's, from my understanding, it's monthly payments. So if you don't have your full amount by the time that your taxes are due, it would still be coming out monthly, so you wouldn't need that, whatever your amount is by the time taxes are due, it would be spaced out over the year. So you'd still be paying for that, but it kind of makes it a little bit easier so that you're not getting late payments for missing that, right? Because it's coming out monthly. So that is kind of a benefit to the program itself versus having a lump sum payment, and then if you miss that, you have whatever the, I guess the additional late fee would be, right? So it kind of removes that and just puts it more towards a monthly payment.
So just a question we currently have the TIP program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're wanting to move people onto more so than this other method, just for clarification, is that right? Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? If there's none, we'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Councilor Florence, it looks like we have another recommendation here.
Oh, so I move that the Council of the Town of Colehurst hereby authorize amend to draft. Okay, which one are we going on? Okay, sorry, I thought it was on that one. I'm reading from two different places. Move that the Council of the Town of Colehurst hereby authorize administration to draft an amendment to bylaw number 387-16, a bylaw to provide for the implementation of a pre-authorized tax payment plan to provide reference for a payment incentive. To remove reference. Thank you.
Any discussion? There's none, we'll call the question, all in favor? That's carried, great, thanks. Now let's move on to the Staff and Volunteer Appreciation Event Committee.
There's still one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, is there one more?
So
Oh.
another thing that we had there was we went over the payments, which was a new policy to establish payment schedule for members of the Emergency Management Committee. And our recommendation, or I guess my recommendation, is the Council of the Town of Colhurst hereby approves policy number 240101, payments as presented.
Any questions or discussion on this item?
No, just well written.
Thank you for stopping me. I was zooming on through. All right, we'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Now we can move on. So going to Staff Volunteer Appreciation Event Committee. Again, we have the minutes there. Is there anything that anyone has any questions on regarding this? If there are none, we're going to move on to the Rec and Culture Committee. And we did have a recommendation that came out of that committee. Councillor Caldwell, did you want to speak to that, or would you like me to?
Let me get down to this part, please, and then I can speak to it if you like. We have a lot of great conversation. So I'm going to guess that everybody had a chance to read through this. We had a really good conversation about how important the parade on Miners' Days is to the community. We had one person put their name forward, and then prior to meeting, sort of said, you know what, I think it's too big of a time commitment. I'm not able to take part this time. We haven't really had success in finding someone who's able to step up. And so it came up that that's a possibility. We could look at some of the students. What was the position that?
Yeah, we were just talking about it being potentially like a co-op or a university.
A co-op, yeah.
Could be anything.
And looking at just finding someone who, is maybe wants to develop some event planning or organizational skills and provide them with a small honorarium to organize a parade for us this year. And so we wanted to bring that recommendation forward to council.
Do you want to make that motion?
To see? Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Great.
So I'll make the motion that the council of the town of Colhurst hereby approves payment of a $500 honorarium for an individual to organize the 2022 Miners' Day Parade as recommended by the Recreation and Culture Committee.
We'll open it up for discussion. There's none. I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I do have one other item that I wanted to add for the Rec and Culture. I'd like to make a motion that I'd like to change up the council assignment. I don't really know what we call that, but I would like to remove myself as a committee member from the Recreation and Culture Committee and appoint Councillor Potry to that committee in my place. So yeah, what is that sufficient for going with all of just all of the processes behind our appointments?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I mean, because there is to be 2 council representatives on it, I believe, so you're just changing.
Great, thank you. Any discussion?
Yes, Councillor Potry, would you accept that?
Yes.
Because that would be an important part of the discussion.
Already asked. We'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Great, thank you. And then can I just get a motion to accept committee meeting minutes, please? Thank you.
I move that the committee minutes presented in this meeting are accepted.
Any discussion? None. All in favor? That is carried. Perfect. All right, so now we're gonna move on to internal reports with the financial report. CEO Howda, I'll turn it over to you for just the year-to-date, and if there's anything in there that you'd like to highlight or would like us to take note of.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really. I mean, Director of Corporate Services, Passy and myself, took a look at it. We have a new budgeting system that we're working with. So it does indicate year to date is looking at having it so it's on a monthly basis like we previously had, and somewhat changing the format and sort of the summarized version. But in looking at it, I mean, the budgeted numbers, the year to date numbers, there's nothing really drastically at this point in time. I mean, as indicated, you know, with just passing the budget here recently, bigger projects are just underway. And some of the internal transfers, the grants, those types of things, a lot of those are done at year end and that type of stuff. So there's no glaring, you know, anything doesn't stand out glaring at this point. So in our opinions.
Thank you. Any questions on this item? Councilor Lawrence?
Thank you. I just have a question about, the impact of the soaring gas prices and what's that gonna do to, some of our budget lines for even like garbage and stuff like that. I imagine that's gonna kind of bump things up, just in, you know, reading the news and stuff like that and hearing from other municipalities. It just kind of worries me. So I just was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, in the final budgeting process, we definitely took a look at that and felt that the numbers we had in there still had room despite the increases or whatever, that we didn't feel we had to adjust any at this particular point. And again, as long as internally within each department, we don't go over budget, you know, if say tires are down a little bit and gas is up a little bit, for instance, that's still okay if it's under, you know, parks or if it's under roads or whatever the case is. So within that, we felt that overall in the departments that it still was good. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on it as the prices keep going. Certainly for, you know, maybe the upcoming budgets, it could have a definite effect.
Any further questions? Councilor Poetry?
With our peace officer no longer being employed here, I guess are we actively searching for a new person to fill that position?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, we mentioned it a week ago there that just gave you the official notification that you had resigned. The conversation there was brief, I guess, and said, you know, perhaps add to a future meeting to discuss where we want to go with the program. So at this point, to say we're actively, no, just waiting for direction as to how we want to go. And so possibly as early as next week, we'll discuss where we want to go with it further. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? If there are none, would somebody like to make a motion to accept the internal reports?
I will.
Go.
I move that the internal reports presented in this meeting are accepted.
Any discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now we'll move down to the CAO report. We all have that in front of us, and so if there's nothing that you need to highlight, we could just go to questions if that works. Any questions anyone has? Oh, go ahead. See you have yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just the only thing really, unless there's any other questions, are the parade invites. We did get Nobleford. I did receive today Pincher Creek as well. Pincher Creek is August 20th, so we're looking at putting council members to some of those, and so we can RSVP. As you see, we'll put them in the future reports as we move ahead, as we did with the ones that we have already pulled out, et cetera. So if there's any comments or in terms of that from council members today.
Yeah, does anyone want to go to the Nobleford one? You want to be available?
The August 6th one was kind of a conflict for me, so I was thinking I could go to the Nobleford one. But then I just wanted to add to that further. I had kind of just looked around in communities close to us and made like a little list and put it on our Teams chat. And I know that we haven't officially been invited, but I bet if we identified who could go to which one, or if anybody can, then, you know, if we kind of did the applications or whatever as such. But then I also wanted to bring up, in a place that doesn't have a parade, where, you know, it might be good to maybe go out and look for an opportunity to network, or even set up, you know, a Colhurst booth or something, would be for the standoff days. And I believe the kind of days, if I'm calling it correctly, and I believe that is historically the third weekend of July. I haven't been able to find a lot of info on it this year, but I think it would be good, just coming out of COVID and stuff, and maybe council feels the same or maybe not, but that to try to get to some of these things and to try to engage with our our community partners, and then that way hopefully they'll come to us too and come to our parade and make it extra fun. Yeah.
We have a lot of people who live here that have connections to stand on to the reserve.
So what would be the best way, because I know that you do have that list. Would it be worth it for us to go through that list, or we're gonna be close to July 16th by the time we have our next council meeting? So what is the best way that we kind of look at this?
My next suggestion, I know I kind of just threw it out there messily, that we just kind of informally do it, and kind of just go through the list and just if you can do it, you can do it, and then we can make a motion, or do we need a motion, or is it just, we don't need a motion?
Okay.
Then we just do it that way.
Yeah, we can do that then, we can go through, because you did send that in Teams, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Perfect, all right, so if everyone can take a look at that and see
If
what.
anybody wants to use their tech skills to make it better, go for it.
Yeah, the only thing, it is like for RSVP
Yes.
purposes, just so that we can pass that on to the communities or whatever, so.
So can we say the council can look at that by the end of this week? In the Teams chat? Okay, so by Friday, take a look at that and then we can get those RSVPs in. Perfect. Any other questions about the CAO report?
I do, if I could, please. I'm looking at the payment in the amount of 260,000 has been approved. So is that in addition to our original grant, or is this the only grant that we've received?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, we did receive the municipal stimulus program
That's
grant
the
for
one.
330,000 something. And then we also did apply for this Canada Community Revitalization one, which, we applied for it, basically topped up to roughly 600,000. So other than, a slight, couple of minor expenses that they didn't allow, that's the amount that we got with that one, so.
That's wonderful news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
And I guess when we sort of turn on our solar panels, are we doing anything about that? Is it going to be a big fuss, or is it just going to be a quiet switch?
Well, as I indicated at the last meeting, we part of the grant requirements are the media release or whatever, which has been prepared and will be passed on to them. And I think from there, it doesn't necessarily say that you have any major ribbon cutting or something to that effect, but I'm sure that they would certainly would not discourage that. I mean, it's a good thing, but that's why they want it on their websites, all the different sites that are going up, regardless of how small or big it is. Ours is fairly small, but still, it's, you see the pictures, it looks bigger than what you think too, maybe. So.
I think we should do something.
Even if we just put those pictures in our town news and just sort of celebrate our accomplishment. And that was one of the things that came up in our strategic planning, is that we really accomplish a lot, and we don't celebrate it with our community, so.
And we'll definitely put it on our websites and that stuff, to say. So.
I wonder if you like with the Canada Community Revitalization Fund, was that always planned, or was that a new thing?
Thank you, Madam. It was a new grant that came out last year.
Okay.
And again, as indicated, kind of the revitalization was in the COVID type scenario to try and stimulate, because it had to be for projects that were to be completed by the end of last year. So like, shovel ready to roll. To complement the one that we did receive from the provincial government. So this was a federal one. So.
Any further questions? If there are none, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the report? Or to accept the report? Go ahead.
I move that the Chief Administrative Officer's report is hereby accepted as presented.
Any discussions? None, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna go to council member reports and questions. So again, we'll just kind of go through the line here and you can highlight a couple of things or anything you'd like to bring up. We'll start with Councillor Ackerman today.
Okay, I'm a little prepared for this, but the only thing that really came up between the last council meeting and this one is the policy bylaw review. Last Monday, we spoke about that one. I do have the rural crime prevention workshop session tomorrow afternoon, and then on Thursday I do have the Oakland Watershed Council and the Southborough AGMs that afternoon.
Councilor Lawrence.
Thank you. So I, since last council meeting, I've gone to the Highway 3 Community Development Association meeting. And then there was the 2 council meetings. I just wanted to follow up on something that I talked about, I believe at my last council report, maybe it was my report. But we talked about doing the Stars of Alberta Award and nominating Beth Barclay. So I reached out to Beth, and she's, I love Beth so much. She does not wish to be nominated. She has officially been nominated once, and she has been asked to be nominated several more times. I think one of them was even Deputy Mayor Caldwell. And anyway, so she's been nominated several times, and she's still declining us, even though I said she wasn't allowed to decline. So she does not wish to be nominated, but yeah, had a chance to talk to her in well for a bit, and they're doing well. They're living in Lethbridge, and I think she is a star of Alberta. So I'm clearly not the only one. She's been nominated that many more times. So. And then
The hope was that eventually she would say yes.
Yeah, right. Just so much class that one. Yeah, and I did want to just bring up quickly just the NIST voting from the Sunny South and ask maybe Arvin or somebody to look into it. Maybe we could let them know that with us being a smaller town and not having all the latest technology, that it's that it's not always perfect. But the NIST voting is a little bit annoying as we try to reach out to our residents and stuff like that. I find it a little bit frustrating as one of our modes of speaking with people and communicating with people. And I know that they are a small business as well, something we talked about previously. I just wanted to take a few minutes to bring this up.
Can I ask about that? Have we reached out to them to say, would it work for you if we just did a summary of our meeting? To see if that's something, because I get the sense that you're right. I think a good portion of it is sort of the talk to text function that's being used, and so it's sort of misrepresenting a lot of what's being said. And sometimes changing a few words can really just change the entire communication. So have we reached out?
I have reached out in the past, yes, and have offered that. I will say that it is more time consuming on my behalf in order to get that done. And so I haven't had the ability to do that as of late. But it's definitely something that I can chat with them a little bit more about.
See,
yeah.
Be open to that.
Great, thank you. Councilor Poetry, let's go to you.
Councilor Florence and I had a staff community leaders mini meeting. Working on that as a sub-minutes. Councilor Caldwell and I were at MSTA minutes, and then again we had an MSTA again. That was just we weren't able to attend that one today. And then I was also able to go to the Colhurst Division for the high school and Western Tech schools. So there's nothing else I didn't bring up out of those, but that's
great. Thank you. And Debbie Marie-Bell.
I think I don't need to repeat the MSDA meeting direct together, but we had the Rec and Culture meeting. The minutes came forward with me. Did a recommendation. I too attended the Colhurst School Value Scoping session yesterday, and today the Municipal Leaders Caucus as well. And that was it. Thank you.
Great, thanks. I just have a couple of things here, similar to what's already been mentioned. I'm involved in the value scoping project for the Colhurst High School and Colhurst School thing, as well as I went with Debbie Marie-Caldwell to the Leaders Caucus today in Mesquite and had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what's happening in Alberta municipalities. So. And one other interesting thing that is coming up is that our mayors and reeves of Southwest and Southeast Alberta are having a joint meeting this Friday. So that'll be kind of nice to get that larger group together. All right. So we'll move on then to external reports. So we have the report from FCSS, the report to municipalities. Is there any discussion on this item? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the report. Great.
I move that the external reports presented in this meeting are accepted.
Any other discussion? If not, no question, all in favor? That is carried, thank you. All right, so now we're gonna move on to correspondence. Is there anything that anyone would like to talk about? And if not, we'll just get a motion to acknowledge the correspondence.
I'll make that motion.
Great, thank you.
I move that the correspondence presented in this meeting is hereby acknowledged and filed.
Any discussion? None, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. And now we'll move into other business. I would like, if I could, to do something. I would like to go into closed session for the scholarships, and so I would like to leave that to the last, if that's okay. And so then we'll just cover the B and C, and then we'll go into a closed session if we can do that. All right. Is everyone agreeable to those little changes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So we'll go to the Alberta Emergency Management Agency. They have an awards process that is open. And Svea, is there anything from there that you wish to highlight or to bring forward?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really, I guess just putting it out there if we had any members of the different categories that are there, that we consider nominating for that.
One of the things I was wondering, and I didn't look through it that closely in terms of the categories, but what about the person who used to be our Director of Emergency Management that had done that for is that what their title was? Who had done that for quite a long time? I'm not sure if that, you want to kind of look at that path?
Does he leave the nominee for that?
I don't think so. I wonder if maybe we can just ask that you look into that for us.
Yeah, we could.
See because that would be a wonderful nomination.
It's quick, I guess. I think he has to agree to it as well, so.
There we go.
July 1st.
You never know.
Not that I have to agree.
All right. And then the other one that we have here is the Health Minister Jason Copping is doing a conversation about healthcare in Alberta. Is anyone interested in attending that on June 24th? Seeing none? All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And so then, if we're done with the agenda, I'm going to, can someone make a motion to go into closed session? Discuss the nominations?
I can.
Great, thank you.
Move that we move to closed session to review the scholarships and community awards.
At 9:13. Any discussion? None? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, we'll take a quick recess while you can go to the washroom should you require that. Or get a drink or whatever. I'm gonna drink my things and no, I still have the root beer. Actually, did I drink?